Welcome to Move to Amend Reports. I am Egberto
And I'm Laura. How's it going, Egberto?
So far, so good. How was your day, Laura?
Well, I'm getting my taxes done, but I understand that you're working on a project where you'll be having a show on the radio
Yes.
in the Houston area, correct?
Yes, I just got a gig on Monday nights at 9 p.m. It's going to be on Pacifica Radio, KPFT 90.1. We're going to have a show called Politics Done Right. And guess what, Laura? I'm going to also want you to be a guest on that show because you're going to have a whole lot to tell us as well.
Well, just let me know. In the meantime, tonight we have a two-part show, so we need to get going because we have a couple of great guests ahead. But before we begin, I want to remind our listeners to call us if you have a question or comment. The number is 646-652-2345, and press 1 after the prompt. As I said, we have a two-part show tonight. First, we'll hear from Ben Cohen, followed by Libby Carr, the campaign manager for the WAMEN campaign. I don't believe there are too many folks out there who don't know who our first guest is. In 1978, Ben and his childhood friend Jerry Greenfield opened a homemade ice cream parlor in an old gas station in Burlington, Vermont, on an initial investment of $8,000. They built it into a multi-million-dollar business. Ben and Jerry pioneered many unusual flavors and an equally unusual business philosophy that sought to integrate social concerns into their day-to-day business activities. After Ben & Jerry's was sold in 2000, Ben continued following his political conscience. His social advocacy includes founding True Majority and Business Leaders for Sensible Priorities. Today, Ben is president and head stamper at the Stamp Stampede campaign, whose goal it is to help build the movement to amend the Constitution to get money out of politics. The Stampede encourages people to rubber stamp paper currency with messages that say not to be used for bribing politicians and stamping money out of politics. Ben, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the show.
Great to be here with you.
Move to Amend members may remember that we worked together for a few months on a stamping project a couple of years ago, but you carried on to make the Stamp Stampede what it is today. Tell us about it, your mission, successes, what's happening with the Stamp Stampede.
Well, we've been stamping our gazongas off. The number of people that have been going online to stampstampede.org and buying stamps continues to grow, continues to accelerate. I think, in the last couple of months we sold more stamps than we did in, over half a year last year. And people are starting to see these stamp bills show up. And so it is helping to build the movement. The amazing thing is that, corporate America and the 0.1% are using money by throwing gobs of it at politicians and bribing them to pass laws that benefit corporations and the 0.1%. But we, the rest of us, can make our money talk by literally turning money into media. And that's what the Stampede is about. If you stamp 3 bills a day for a year, you end up reaching 1 million people because every bill you stamp gets seen by over 800 people as it goes into circulation and gets passed around. So it's a pretty powerful form of free media.
That's an amazing number. I had no idea that you could reach so many people with such a simple act. What do you say to people who say, isn't that against the law?
I think about half of Americans think it is, but it's not. We've worked with various lawyers, and they've researched it, and there's a legal opinion on our website. And if you look at the specifics of the law, it assumes that people are going to mark money. And it says exactly what you're not allowed to do. You're not allowed to cut it. You're not allowed to punch holes in it. You can't glue it. You can't obliterate it so that it no longer looks like it's not money. You can't change the denomination, and you cannot advertise your business on it. But otherwise, it's okay. It's free speech. They haven't taken that one away yet.
Well, that's pretty good. So one more little question about the money. Do you know what the best denomination bill is to be stamping? Are some better than others, more frequently?
Well, you can stamp any denomination. The way it works is that the lower denominations get passed around more frequently. So to get the message out quick, you want to stamp $1 bills. But you can stamp 5, 10s, 20s, 50s, 100s. They just tend to circulate more slowly. So they will eventually be seen by the same 800 people, but a dollar bill will be seen by 800 people in 2.5 years. And those other ones, as the denomination goes up, the number of years that it takes to get those 800 viewings increases.
That's kind of interesting stuff to know. So
yeah, it's interesting stuff. I mean, whoever thought that I would end up knowing this stuff?
I know it's kind of arcane stuff, but so relative to.
Yeah.
So, how do folks go about getting involved with the Stamp Stampede?
You just go to stampstampede.org and you can buy a stamp online. We sell them at our cost. You can't get stamps any cheaper anywhere. And, tonight only, especially for Move to Amend members, because I'm very into Move to Amend, I'd like to give out a 50% discount code. It's BC25. You just enter BC25 into the the little discount code box on the store, and you get 50% off the price of your stamps.
So take advantage of that, folks. That's a very generous offer. Thank you.
Was that B?
Yeah, well, I'm in competition with other people who have their own discount codes at the Stampede. So, if I can get more stamps sold with my discount code, I get
a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream? Anyway, sorry. I couldn't resist that one.
You had to say that.
I got my free pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream when I signed up with Credo, only it wasn't Credo at the time. It was somebody else. Working Assets.
Right, Working Assets. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that was the best promotion they had to get new users, was to offer that free pint certificate.
Well, it was pretty darn effective as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, it's nice.
So anyway, back to you. The Stamp Stampede is a great project, but it's one of really only a lot of projects that you've been behind since you stepped into social advocacy basically almost full time. What drew you to the Stamp Stampede, this message, the message about corporations, the role of corporations in our democracy and money in campaigns? What brought you to this point?
Well, actually, I started focusing on the issue of getting money out of politics and passing this amendment during the days of the Occupy movement. I was pretty active in that movement, and as at the very beginning of the movement, it was very focused on the issue of income inequality and wealth inequality, and the 1% and the 99%. And then, as the movement continued, it started getting, kind of unfocused. That there were, people coming into the movement with, that were, focusing on fracking or the environment or the banksters or, healthcare or, what have you. And, I was feeling like there was a need to focus. I felt like the common denominator amongst just about all the issues that Occupy ended up being concerned with was that money in politics, that the root cause of all those problems, the root cause of the environmental problems, the root cause of lack of regulation on the banks, healthcare, is all because of money in politics. So I decided I wanted to focus on that. And the other thing that struck me during the days of Occupy was that, you know, there were these occupations all around the country, all around the world. But, you know, in the U.S., you know, what were there? You know, several, you know, tens or hundreds of thousands of people in parks. But there were millions of Americans that sympathized with this message about income inequality. And I felt like there was a need for people around the country who agreed with it to be able to visually demonstrate their solidarity, essentially. And the method I came up with was stamping money, because that's something that anybody can do anywhere, anytime. You don't have to go to a meeting. You don't have to occupy a park. You don't have to go to a demonstration. And it's constant. You know, I mean, you stamp that dollar bill, and it just goes out, and it stays in circulation, and it moves. So, you know, I kind of put those two together with the Stampede, and here I am.
It's a permanent billboard.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
in your pocket.
Essentially a petition on steroids. I mean, the thing about a billboard is that, you know, somebody paid to have that piece of advertising put up. In the case of stamping money, every dollar bill is stamped by hand by a human being, and it's kind of a vote each time they do it. It's a you know, they're expressing their desire, they're expressing their fed-upness with the system and their belief that, yes, we can change it, and yes, there's something I can do, and the way to do it is to amend the Constitution to say that corporations are not people and money is not speech.
Ben, what on your stamp itself? What's the wording on your stamp?
Well, we have several stamps. One of them says stamp money out of politics, amend the Constitution. They all say amend the Constitution. And then another one says not to be used for bribing politicians. Another one says not to be used for not to be used for buying elections. Another one says corporations are not people. And you know, that's pretty much what we got.
That's
excellent.
So cool. You know, I well remember the Oreo Mobile and the Liar Liar Pants on Fire floats.
Yeah, you've been around for a while yourself.
Yeah, I've been around.
You're dating yourself.
And are they floats? I mean, if that's the right term, but at any rate, you clearly have a penchant for showmanship. So what sends you, you know, what's taking you down that road? It's
you know, I've been, I don't know, just naturally, you know, focused on what we call mobile promotions. I mean, during the days of Ben and Jerry's, I was doing mobile vehicles. You know, we had one that was solar powered before solar power was cool, and we had another cowmobile where Jerry and I did a cross country trip, and it was a converted motorhome, and we were scooping free ice cream to people, and you know, and then we had a bus that was the Ben and Jerry's Light Circus. We were coming out with light ice cream, and it was solar powered. There were performers, you know, kind of new vaudeville performers. I don't know what draws me to it, but you know, that is what I do. I mean, I think that you know, those things are very, very unique. You know, there's something that somebody has an actual human interaction with you know, live people interacting with live people. It's not a TV ad or a radio ad or a print ad. You know, it's you know, kind of more, I don't know, down home. It makes a big impression.
Well, there's that, when you make the human connection, there's no better connection that can be made, and it can't be mimicked with television or technology or the social network. So
I think that's true. And, for the Stampede, the flagship is the Amendomatic Stampmobile, which is a 12-foot high by 14-foot long Rube Goldberg-style money stamping machine. And
how's it work?
It goes around to fairs and festivals, and you put your dollar bill in, and you clamp it into this carrier, and then it's suspended from like a miniature monorail, and it goes up the spiral elevator to the height of 12 feet, and then it coasts down by gravity, and it runs into Corporal Man, and when it does that, this face flips to one side, and it exposes a corporate office tower, and and then it runs into Money Mouth, and this guy, rich old white guy, staring at you, and when it goes by, his mouth opens up and money pours out of it, and then finally the bill comes underneath the stamper, and it gets stamped, and then you take your bill and trot on down the road.
So, where can folks see the Stamp-O-Matic machine? Where's it at right now?
Stampmobile, yes. Well, if you go to our website, stampstampede.org, and then you click on Stampmobile up in the nav bar, you'll get to the schedule and the itinerary. Currently, I think it was in Florida, and I think it's now on its way to Ohio. And then I think it's going back to Florida, and eventually it's going to make its way to the state of Washington by the end of May, so that we can work there in the state of Washington until June 23rd, which is the last date for gathering petition signatures to get the amendment on the ballot. This ballot initiative in favor of amending the Constitution to get money out.
So if folks show up in Washington at one of your stops, they'll be able to sign the petition there if they haven't done it yet. Oh, that's great news. Yep,
absolutely.
That's great news. Egberto?
Yeah, now, Ben, let me ask you something. You got into ice cream. You came up with a lot of flavors. You were an extremely successful corporation. You made it big. How comes you didn't get that cancer that said, I want more, I want it all, I want to take as much as I can get? Now, instead of talking to me from the point of view of an activist, why don't you talk to our Move to Amend members as why all 1%ers aren't created equal?
That's interesting. I was, when I was scooping ice cream in Liberty Park in New York City for the Occupy there, every once in a while someone would come up and say, "Hey man, you're a 1%er. You're a rich guy. What are you doing? Supporting the Occupy movement?" And I was just really taken aback by the question. I mean, I think there's such a thing as justice and fairness, and no matter how much money you're making, if there's some people that are living in poverty, and we have a structural system that keeps people in poverty, you got to change it. It doesn't matter how much money you make.
Now, is that something you think you grew up with because of your upbringing, or is that a consciousness that you developed out of seeing reality?
Out of seeing reality, out of growing up, in a suburb of New York City, and going into New York City and noticing that on one side of a line there was extreme poverty, and if I had been born on that side, I would have been living in extreme poverty, and on the other side, there was extreme wealth, and that's not fair.
Right.
It's not they teach you about equality and fairness in elementary school, and, supposedly the whole country is supposed to be about equality and equal opportunity, and what can I say? I believe that stuff, and I feel like you can either see the current situation and see the poverty and the hardship and the oppression that exists, and you can either accept it or you can complain about it or you can do something about it. And, for me, I have to do something about it. I can't accept it, and I can't just complain about it.
Maybe sometime you should establish a course in a business school that talks about this type of ethics with folks who actually acquire capital, make money in such a manner. Maybe sometime we have to think about adding this to the MBA to the MBA curriculum. What do you say, Laura?
Well, that wouldn't be a bad idea, but I think one of the points we can draw from this is that there are people of all kinds, and that means rich people too, or wealthy people who have a social conscience, and that as we organize, we need to take that into consideration. Just like not all corporations are bad, not all rich people are bad, and I would go further to say that probably most of them are good people. So
exactly.
So that's the thing that we need to remember when we go out and organize in our communities, is that you never can judge a book by their cover, and that one of the one thing we can point to in terms of our success is we know that our message carries in conservative districts as well as liberal districts and in centrist districts, and that's because it's a truth about our democracy. And rich or poor, black or white or anything else, we all want our democracy to work equitably, and we should hold that in our minds and in our hearts when we start talking with other people.
Absolutely. So, Ben, having somebody like yourself out there on the front line as well, I think is extremely commendable, and I hope that you realize that a lot of us out here on the line recognize that that folks like yourself actually make a big difference in how the movement goes forward, because it takes us all. What say you, Ben?
Well, I'm just trying to, fight with whatever tools I have. It's kind of a socialist thing, from each according to their ability or capacity. And, I happen to have been really lucky, and, my business succeeded. I had wished that it would have remained independent, and I fought to keep it that way, but I lost. So you got to take where you are and do the best you can. And, I think this is what I have to do. This is what makes me feel good.
Now, when you are out there in the field, you're out there in the field talking to people and having fun with people. That is what living is all about, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you, I was was mentioning to you and Laura right before the show started that it was just 2 days ago that we had our second town hall telephone meeting for the Stampede, and there were 1,200 people on the call. I mean, I was amazed. And, people were psyched. I mean, they were, telling stories about their experiences stamping money, and they were trading stamping tips with people, and it was just, it was just really invigorating for me. It was just, I just can't tell you how good it made me feel.
My mind is still blown from 1,200 people. Sorry, Laura, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, and I think it should, and I think it's important that this work of being socially active can be draining, and it can be hard on the soul when you see how much need there is out there and how little and how we're unable to address that need. So these elements that you bring to this organizing creates, fun and interest, and that's important, and we need that element so that we can keep fighting the good fight. So I think that the contributions that you've made and continue to make are really an important part of building a movement for democracy, Ben.
Well, you're very kind, Lauren. I really appreciate it. But, on the wall of my office, I have stenciled on the wall a quote from Emma Goldman, who says that if I can't dance, I don't want to be part of your revolution. So I take that to heart. There's also a quote from Ralph Nader who says, if we had justice, we wouldn't need charity. So, those are the things that I believe.
Well, those are two excellent quotes. I have a favorite quote from Ralph Nader too, which is either turn on to politics or politics will turn on you.
Yep, that's a good one.
That is true.
Well, as long as we're doing quotes, there's
go for
it. Big for me that's anonymous. I don't know who said it. It's only those who attempt the absurd achieve the impossible.
Yeah, that is a great quote.
True.
Yeah, I've heard that many times before, and that's really a good one to live by as well. Well, Ben, we're nearing the end of the half hour. It's been a joy and a pleasure to have you with us. I hope we can get you back on again in the future to tell us more about the success of the Stamp Stampede and what your next project is. In the meantime, you've got some time here to give yourself a shameless plug and get folks plugged into the Stamp Stampede rather.
Well, thanks so much. It's been great being with you. The Stamp Stampede. Get a stamp, start stamping. StampStampede.org, and use the discount code DC25 for 50% off. Make me look good amongst my competitors.
Okay, we'll give it our best shot. Thanks, Ben.
All right, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Ben, you have a wonderful time, and thank you very much for being with us.
All right, well, thanks for inviting me on. Take care.
Take care now. Well, I think that we'll call it a night, and would like to tell folks, thank you very much for listening to us. We'll be back next week again. You have one last word to give about our website, Laura?
Yeah, any questions, our website is full of facts and information. It's movetoamend.org, and if you can also contact us by sending us an email at info@movetoamend.org, and we will answer that just as quickly as we can.
Well, thank you very much, Laura. It was a great show with Ben Cohen. I mean, I'm very impressed with the man. To see that we have somebody like him come on board and actually move in sync with us, I think it's a great thing. But, folks, you have a wonderful night. This is Move to Amend. Checking out. Laura, you have a great night, okay?
You too, Egberto. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.